Hello, and welcome to the Culture Nexus. I am your host, Dr. Cody Incredible, and on this particular episode, I have the pleasure of interviewing a longtime friend since childhood. Her name is Corey Lowe, and she has a very interesting tale to tell involving her life, her career, her family, and a very strong moral compass. This is going to be a 3-part episode, so please feel free to rejoin us for part 2 and part 3. And with that being said, I give you Corey Lowe. Whether you're doing it out loud or in your head, please give a round of applause to my friend since childhood, Miss Corey Lowe.
Yay! I do it both in my head.
Look, if we're not our own biggest fan, why should anybody else be? Okay.
Amen.
Hey, how have you been?
I'm doing amazing now that I'm speaking with you finally.
I trust the sentiment is definitely mutual. That is for sure. So let's start off with who are you? What is your work history? And we're going to kind of cruise through memory lane and tell me how things got started and how you got to where you currently are.
Absolutely. And thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for this platform. And thank you for allowing me to be your first guest. I'm so humbled and appreciative.
Hey, that's a two-way street. That's a two-way street.
Yes. And I can't wait to see you in person and give you a big hug. And
Likewise.
So we both started out in Lithonia, right?
Right. I think when we initially met each other, it was in junior high.
I feel like you were a Stoneview kid.
You know what? I sure was. That's true.
Yeah, so we both started out in Lithonia, the city of granite.
Yeah, absolutely. So many people don't know the city's nickname. That's interesting that you do, but I'm not surprised. But then also, wait a minute, that kind of is a good segue to something else. I'm pretty sure that when you work in a city long enough, that's the kind of stuff you find out if you are, say, a police officer.
Yes, so that's what I wanted to do, is give back to the community and stay local. You know, it's important to obviously give back and work in the community that you grew up in. So that's why I went into law enforcement in DeKalb.
That is something that has always interested me, because by the time you and I parted ways, I had gone off to like another area, another district. Did you wind up at Lithonia?
I did go to Lithonia for a short period and then transferred to homeschool.
Oh, okay. See, I never knew that part. And after we left junior high, I went out to Tucker and stayed there until I graduated high school. And with that now this was way before the advent of social media. So it's kind of like if you lost touch with somebody or didn't keep up with phone numbers, then you were just kind of out there until at least MySpace kicked off. And so,
right?
So
That's so true.
So tell me this. I know you said you wanted to give back to the community, but do you recall the thought process of when you went from, I'm going to graduate out of high school? What happened in between graduating high school and making the decision to become a police officer?
Well, this, I lived in Lithonia. They called it the cut through, and you could cut through where Henry's Funeral Home is. It used to be the Lithonia Library and the Lithonia Health Department.
Right, I know that area. Yeah,
you remember? This guy was cutting through, and my dog had gotten out, and he shot at my dog, and I chased him because, that's what you do when someone shoots at your dog. And I was wearing a nightgown and no shoes, and left the babies and just ran out the door. And the sensible folks back at the house called 911. And Lithonia police came out and he said, I'm a reserve officer. And I was like, okay, I don't know what any of that means, but I found the guys, I found the weapon, basically did your job. Here's everything you need. Here's the perks.
Wait. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure that I heard you correctly. Dog gets out, leaves the house. Now, let's just, for the sake of all the people out there I'm gonna use the word because I don't really care. For all the snowflakes out there that'll be like, oh my gosh, you left your kids. Just let them know you didn't leave them by themselves.
Left them with the sensible husband at the house who picked up the phone and called 911 and said, heard gunshots. My wife ran out the door. Couldn't stop her. She's gone. Dog's back home.
You know what? That actually reminds me a lot of like the first Men in Black movie. And it's like just you sit up here and you go out and you do the crazy thing and you do the thing and you haven't been sworn in, haven't been to academy the first day, and yet still you out here running perps down, chasing them down by any means necessary, and you get them. Sure, hey, you could have been a vigilante, just have them all wrapped up in a bow for the cops when they get there. Which, for the sound of things, you did.
Yeah. And he wasn't too interested because he said, I'm a reserve. And I was like, I still don't understand what that means. And he said, I just do this to keep my certification. He's like, I'm not trying to work.
Wow.
So that's kind of what inspired me because I was like, we got to do better. And that's when I decided to sign up for DeKalb, which was, the academy is in Lithonia. So I was live right around the corner. I could walk to the academy, but it was over by the Honey Hole off Bruce Street.
Okay.
And so it was just like a full circle moment for me because I grew up going to the Honey Hole because my mom would pick up my brother's friends who often were raised by single moms who were working full time and they needed a ride to football practice. So I just grew up going to Bruce Street, comfortable at the Honey Hole because my mom would pick up everybody and take them to football practice and bring them back. And it was just crazy full circle going to, the police academy over there behind the Bruce Street Elementary School.
Now, for the people who aren't familiar with the area, explain the Honey Hole to them.
Back in our day,
as best
90s,
as you can, raised eyebrow.
Yeah, it would be a all brick building, housing complex. That's usually one way in, one way out.
Yeah. It sounds like I could use another contemporary phrase for that, but if you're reading between the lines, you get what's being said.
Yeah, we just rolled with it. It was normal. It was natural. So I didn't see anything different, and I was just comfortable. And it was just crazy being on the PT field. Thinking back, I actually went to the Honey Hole one time. Somebody stole a bike, my neighbor's bike, and they were just like, oh, well, the bike's gone. And I was like, no, that's not right. They're like, well, we're not going to the Honey Hole. And I was like, what do you mean? I drove over there and got the bike back. And people were looking at me like I was crazy, but I was like, just not right. You don't take somebody's bike. Strong sense
of justice on full display. When you did that, was that before or after you became a police?
It was before, and I think that was just like a confirmation that, you need to stand up for things that are, the injustice, things that are not right. That was just kind of like a sign after sign after sign. It's like, all right, so you kind of need to follow this route and see where it goes.
Okay. So you go into the academy, obviously you make it out, and what was it like being a police officer as a rookie?
That was not easy because a lot of people would call you that. And I say people would be the senior officers, or if you would come out on the road, people who are familiar with police officers would know you were a rookie. They could look at your badge and see that it was shiny, or your name tag and that it's not scratched up yet. And so, that part wasn't easy, but you have to, stick with it.
Okay. So what is it? Over a year where they finally don't consider you a rookie anymore? What's the rough the time on that?
So you pretty much do like a FTO program, field training officer, where you have to ride with, and then you get released. And then, yeah, like you said, probably a year on the road. And honestly, at DeKalb County, I was on South Side Morning Watch, which is, Candler Road, Gresham, Memorial Drive,
okay.
Moreland Avenue. So basically 6 months on the road by yourself, working Morning Watch, Moreland Avenue is pretty much like a year or 2 years at an agency like Cherokee County.
Okay, I would just go ahead and throw this out there because you've known me long enough to know this, but for folks that are getting an introduction to me, I am not politically correct at all. So don't be surprised by anything you hear coming out of my mouth. And if you are surprised, chances are we're probably going to be surprised together. But in case a lot of you don't know, because some of you may have assumed, I'll just go ahead and say it. Yes, Corey is a white female, and she was working predominantly Black areas that were middle to low income. And some of those areas were, I think it's safe to say they were areas where you might want to be cautious no matter who you are. And the reason I know is because I've lived in those areas and I grew up in those areas as well. So,
yeah, you're right.
So the one thing that I want to touch on, and I feel like this could be an entire show unto itself or entire episode to itself. When you were working these areas, I'm trying to figure out how I want to put this. Compared to recent events, do you think that when certain officers should at least have an understanding or a rapport with the people or the communities they're going to serve? Because some of the things that's taken place, I want to say in the past 5 years, but like I said, we're not going to go too far back because we know what's been going on. But do you think it makes a difference having had the experience firsthand? Do you think it actually makes a difference somebody coming into the community that looks like them? Or do you think it's more important how you treat them and then they'll adapt? Like, what's your experience been in that way?
I feel like if you treat people like humans, like you're supposed to treat them, then they return the favor no matter, what skin color, all those things, kind of all those barriers just fade away. I can say two things. It used to, after I got out of law enforcement and I would drive by a officer on the side of the road that had a traffic stop, in the middle of a traffic stop, I used to pray for the officer, but in recent years, I now pray for the person they have pulled over that they make it home.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just one night I had a call of a Signal 22. It was a mentally disturbed individual, and to which I responded by myself, which was not a big deal. It was the cab, so a lot of times you didn't have backup. The gentleman had been at this church parking lot parked for, I think it was like maybe 8 to 10 hours all day parked. And it was off of Wesley Chapel Road. It used to be the old Kroger. I know because I used to go there with my grandma, but now it's been converted to a church. And yeah, this was so crazy is going through these areas. And this is places I grew up with, going, shopping at that Kroger. And so I feel kind of like, it's home. And the gentleman got out of the car that he was sitting in. As I approached the car, he was sitting there looking into the abyss. I don't know where he was looking, but you could tell. And he was in a daze. And he got out and he was coming at me. He was coming towards me. And I pulled out my aspeton because you're supposed to do levels of, like, if someone comes at you with hands and you use soft hands or hard hands, and then you OC spray and then a baton. And that's how you upgrade the level of force, is what we were taught in the police academy. But this gentleman was charging me, and there was a guy who came out of nowhere. I promise you, he seemed like an angel. And because there was no backup, and he tackled this individual and held him until backup arrived. And he just said that he remembered me from how I treated him. He was a security guard who happened to be in the parking lot. There was a club in the parking lot of this church. And he said, "Hey, there's my friend." He saw me, saw my blonde hair and curly blonde hair. And he's like, "That's my friend." And then he saw the guy charging. And he said he just instinctively just took after him and charged him. He said, "Oh, no, he's not going to hurt my friend." He didn't look at me as a police officer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that just stuck out to
put it
me.
like this, I understand. I can't relate because I've never been an officer, but I do understand. I totally understand.
He might have thought twice, honestly, because I know how people look at officers. I see, and he may have, instead of looking at me like a mother, you know, a wife, a daughter, a sister, an aunt, you know, he just saw me as a person who was about to get, and that guy probably could. He would have. I'm going to say probably. He would have picked me up, body slammed me. Who knows what would have happened? But when I pulled that gentleman's criminal history, I've never seen a criminal history report, and every single local law enforcement agency he had assaulted, like even MARTA PD, Atlanta PD, Avondale PD, Clarkston PD. You know,
so dude just likes to throw hands and clearly has an issue with authority.
Absolutely. So it was just thank God that gentleman came and was my backup. And I think because I treated him like a human, and he, you know, saw me as a human, and he just knew that I wasn't going to make it home if he didn't come to my rescue. So I just think about things like that when you treat people like humans and they show up for you.
Yeah, yeah. I wish that the world was more like that more often, and maybe give it time and circumstances. Sometimes it's almost like certain things have to happen for good to come from it. You wish it didn't have to be that way, but hopefully we can affect more minds and hearts. Hopefully. So,
yes, sir.
One thing that I wanted to ask about your days in law enforcement was, instead of going the extreme and saying was the craziest or worst or most frightening experience, I want to go the other direction with it. What's a call that you got where once you got there, you kind of rolled your eyes and was like, I really just want to slap you upside the back of your head and then just go on about my business?
It was actually my last day in law enforcement. I thought I was being punked. Do you remember Ashton Kutcher?
Yes.
I swear to you, I was being punked. Like, they were for sure punking me as a going away present. It was a call to a local park, Milam Park in Clarkston. There's a swimming pool and there's a playground. And so you're really not sure, but it was an assault call. So I had backup that day. And you arrive. Yeah, I was like, okay, everybody's coming, blue lights, you know, sirens, it's assault in progress. And you pull up to the playground and there's a lady there with her daughter and another lady with her daughter. And she called the police because they scratched her 2-year-old.
Long dramatic pause, because I'm just like, yeah, that definitely qualifies as, you know what? I'm not going to call this in. I'm just going to slap both of you one good time. And yeah, we're done here. We're done here.
Yeah, the senior officer who was my backup, he looked at me and he cursed in front of those kids. I mean, not supposed to, but he said, "I ain't believing this." Beep. And then turned around and walked, got in his car and left. And I said, "You just gonna leave me here?"
Like,
with these 2-year-olds?
Oddly enough, I get it.
I'm not dealing with this. Y'all gonna leave me to deal with this on my last day?
So actually, you are probably you're making this easy for me. With the segue, get transition. So, what ultimately made you leave law enforcement? That concludes the first part of this episode with Corey Lowe. If you want to find out why Corey left law enforcement and what came next on her journey, please stick around and tune in to part 2 of this episode of the Culture Nexus with Corey Lowe. Thanks for listening. See you soon.